Mic check. Mic check. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Peace. Peace. Out there in the world. If anybody's on and can hear me, give me a 1, please, if you can hear me. Give it a second here. Try to let some people come in. Peace, Pandora. Okay. Thank you. Hope all is well with you. We'll give it a second here, see if we get a couple more people in, and we'll get going with a quick, a little quick discussion here about the new moon. Let's see. I don't want to be on here long, so I may just get going. And this may be just one to catch on the replay for whomever comes driving by. But peace to everyone out here in the broadcasting world. So let's talk briefly about the new moon that occurred at 1:07 a.m. Central Standard Time, August 23rd, which was this morning. And you can make adjustments for wherever you're at in the world. I want to jump right to, I guess I'll jump into getting this new moon chart pulled up, but I really want to focus on this new moon from the standpoint of the reality that more than likely thousands, maybe more, but we can safely say thousands of souls transited into this world at 1:07 a.m. Central Standard Time with adjustments for wherever they were in the world. So that might have been, let's say, if they were in London, it would have been 7:07 London time. If they were in Cali, it would have been 11:07 August 22nd. But making the adjustments for wherever in the world at that moment, it's safe to say thousands of souls were born. So let's look at this new moon from the standpoint of imagining this is some baby's life that we're looking at the schematic for, and to help us make sense of this energy as it applies to us and our collective and individual journeys. So what I want to do is share the screen here, and let's look at this chart and see what challenges are facing this soul that's incarnating. So, of course, the houses are going to be insignificant because this is all location specific. But let's just look at the placements at the time of this new moon, which we are still in the basic pathway of, because the moon is at right about now is about 5 degrees. So within an active orb of this new moon. The new moon orb is pretty much for 12 hours. 12 hours from the exact time of the new moon. So we have, first thing we notice is that the new moon is being received by a direct Mercury. So although the energy is extremely tense with this new moon, we do have some mercy. And the mercy comes in the fact that, again, this new moon is being received by a Mercury that is direct. And this was a rough retrograde here that we had. Um, and so it's helpful that at least the planet that's receiving all this energy is now direct, although it is still in its shadow. And at this point of the new moon, it's still in a difficult position relative from an aspect perspective because it's in an applying sesquiquadrant or sesquisquare or square and a half to retrograde Neptune and Saturn. So the receiver of the new moon energy, although direct, still finds itself in a challenging position. And when we look at this and we're thinking about this baby that's being born, right? There's challenges on the mental processes of this child because for one, and we're going to look at this physiologically. Peace, Sage. We're going to look at this physiologically. Physiologically, Neptune rules over the lymphatic system. Neptune is like a co-ruler of the blood. Neptune deals with hidden poisons, okay? And hidden poisons especially would apply to like processed foods, you know, things that are pretending to be nutrients, but they're really not, you know, and they try to trick the body to receive them and to let down its defenses long enough for them to get in and attack. That's why Neptune, we deal with deception and illusion, right? Saturn deals with catabolic processes. Saturn deals with the end result of catabolism. And catabolism is a part of metabolism. Metabolism is how we're processing our food, right? And then catabolism is that part where it's breaking down. Where well, Saturn would be what's the end result? So solid waste would be the end result. So look at this. Think of it. Think we're talking metaphor here. The mind, the mind, Mercury, is being bombarded by hidden entities and solid states of waste, baggage, plaguing the mind, right? So it's challenging. It's challenging the mind. Um, in addition to these forces, and they're retrograde, so their signals are louder. The signals are louder. This puts a lot of challenge on the fortitude of the mind. This baby needs proper attention, Mercury in Leo. This baby also though needs to have positive communication, or what's a better term, effective communication, so that there's an ability to weed through negative signals that are coming in that could leave the child feeling like the cupboards are bare because Virgo deals with food, with sustenance, right? Virgo is associated with Spica. And Virgo is Mary. And Mary is what? She's the water that carries the Christ seed or the fire. And I'm gonna come back to that. Let's put a little note up here for myself. Let's talk about uh I put up a note to talk about fire, fire and the womb. Okay. So Mary carries the seed, and her job is to get the seed um, to a point where it reaches its harvest. She's got to make sure that the seed does not die on the vine, as you know, peace, black butterfly. Um, right on, enjoy your family. It'll be up here, but thank you for stopping in. We got to make sure that the fruit does not rot on the vine. But all that's being challenged because that energy is being received by Mercury that's being offset by hard aspect to Neptune and Saturn. And in addition to that, Mercury is also being challenged by no. I'm about to make a mistake. No, it's not. Back that up. No, I was about to say Uranus, but that's not right. Uranus is challenging the sun and the moon. Okay. So we got that. Um Now, the sun and the moon representing the subconscious mind, Mercury representing more so the prefrontal processes, conscious thinking. Um the moon more so subconscious, which then ties in naturally to our emotions. And so the moon in Virgo needs to feel like something's getting accomplished or done. The moon in Virgo needs to feel like that the ego has been integrated properly through service. And here we have the sun, which is the ego expression in Virgo. How do I integrate into the collective through the realm of service and the work, and the work being what? The realization of the seed coming to harvest. Well, those efforts are being challenged by Uranus, which is in a square to the sun and the moon. So this puts immediate pressure at a subconscious level, angst. So I'm going to be forthcoming with myself. My moon's in Cancer, so wherever the moon's at in the sky, I feel it like more intensely, and I feel it earlier than the transit. I've been feeling this energy building, this angst. I've had so many challenges just with business things, with paying people to do a service, okay, service Virgo, and there being these interruptions or unforeseen things, Uranus, that then come in and they cause agitation. That's also Uranus, right? And then because you're like, okay, you're following the astrology, when Mercury's retrograde, you need to be more careful about initiating some new anything, right? Because a lot of times there are certain details that we just don't see at the moment. But I'm like, this is something I've been working on before Mercury's retrograde. I waited, until Mercury was direct. And then I kind of moved into the next phase. I'm like, but damn, here's this, you know, but the reason is because here's Uranus here. And my mind is running so fast, and I'm agitated with people whose minds are running at the speed that I feel like mine's running at, which Uranus and Gemini is like back in the 80s. It had this dude who could bald head white guy. He would do these commercials. He could just he talks super fast. Y'all who within my age group, y'all know who I'm talking about more than likely. He had a black mustache, black hair, horseshoe, and he could talk super fast. To me, Uranus and Gemini is like this is how things are moving through the mind, at least through my mind. Like, and then if you encounter somebody whose mind is going, it's like the agitation, right? So I'm not gonna get on here in front like I'm above this. No, I'm feeling this. I'm feeling it. I'm having to I wanted to punch a hole in the wall yesterday because if you punch a hole in somebody's head, you go to jail, like how like that type of feeling, you know? So this is the energy, you ready to go. Like I'm ready for this to go into the real world and action. And so having to be patient, and the word patience means pain. That's what patience is. It's pain. It's the pain of enduring time. So we got that um at play. But in addition to that, this child, this new life that is looking this, and what is it? A seed. This seed, which is a Virgo term in itself, because that's where the grain starts as a seed, is also being challenged by the fact that the same Saturn and Neptune that are challenging the receiver of the new moon, which is Mercury, those same energies are in hidden conflict to the new moon itself. And also, Pluto is in hidden conflict with the new moon, forming what we call a finger of God or a yud. And the word yud is the Hebrew letter yud, the smallest letter in the Hebrew alphabet, but it's the most powerful because you can't form any letter without a yud, and yud means spirit. And so spirit means that there's a process in place that is beyond or subtle. It's so subtle that it is not easily recognized within the 3D reality, although it is always present. So when we have a yud or spirit is working out something, it can cause a lot of difficulty in the 3D reality because it's something that's so subtle that we don't see it. And this is what the aspects of the yud give us, aspects that we can't see. The moon and the sun are in a quincunx or in conjunct to Saturn and Neptune. They are also in the same aspect to Pluto. And so Pluto deals with poisons that are obvious poisons, bacteria, fungi, viruses. Saturn, hidden poisons. Saturn, did I say Saturn? Neptune, hidden poisons. Saturn deals with the heavy end result of a breakdown. Mars and Saturn as the malefics deal with cannibalism. Venus and Jupiter as the benefics deal with anabolism, the building of things. So something's being broken down with Saturn, and we're feeling the breakdown or the heaviness of something being broken down. We're also feeling like there are, another word for poison could be entities. And these entities, moon, subconscious, we're dealing with our own demons that are mounting attacks. And these mounting attacks being triggered by outside forces, outer planets. And we're having to filter through these things to make sure that the realization of Virgo is not diverted. And the realization is that there will be food. That's the promise. That's the promise of this new moon, is that the cupboards are full. They are not bare. But it's so many challenges to this. It's so many challenges to the realization which we expect in to show up towards the end of February as we move into Pisces season, because that's always how the new moon. No. Did I say? Yeah. 6 months later, yeah, in Pisces. So here's where we at with this energy, and we're having to overcome our own doubts because the moon in Virgo is so much about I got to see it to believe it. There ain't a lot of faith involved in this new moon right here. And that's really what the challenge is. It's not even from a religious standpoint. It's really a challenge to faith and trust. I've been having to wrestle with that even with myself, because it's Virgo is all about I've done all the work necessary to make things happen. But that's not always enough. There's a added piece that has to be in there, it is just as much as it's empty to sit around here with a whole bunch of trust and fidelity. I trusted everything, but you ain't doing nothing. Well, it's equally the same with I've done the work. I've done what was necessary. I've been responsible, such and such. But then there's another component to it that goes beyond what you've done, especially in the 3D world. And that's the challenge. One of the other challenges here is all types of stumbling blocks, even if you feel like you've been doing what was necessary, which is forcing you to trust in the subtle and the unseen. Because just as Neptune invites hidden poisons, Neptune also deals with the lymphatic system, which goes in and kills those poisons. And just as much as Pluto deals with the seen and known poisons, Pluto also deals with the enzymes that are composed of minerals and vitamins that help us fight off these poisons. So we got to figure out how to tap into the antidote. And we having to go inside our subconscious mind. And Jamal, who presents online as a teacher at 48 years old, I've figured out it ain't about trying to convince everybody that I have arrived. Because the person who thinks they've completed their work probably has not begun. What not I'm making um I'm telling you this real deal with me. No one escapes. you have to keep dealing with it. So I had to have a moment where I just had to sit with myself, talk to myself, you know? And then this is the value of being on your path, not saying that you've arrived, but to be on your path, because being on your path allows you to pick up messages, breadcrumbs along the way that give you guidance. And that guidance is the mercy. It's the Yakim, the mercy side of the tree of life that helps to balance out the Boaz, the severity side. And the mercy is that you get messages to keep going and not lose your mind, and to trust the process. And these children being born at this time, this is what they're gonna have to do. These children being born at this time were born to go down into the belly of the ravenous dragon to recover the divine seed. One of my clients, who is also my mentor, told me about what her mentor taught her about the Yud. She says, God will take you down low to build you up. I have two of these things in my chart. So, and one of them is formed with my ascendant. So I bear witness to this. It'll take you down to build you back up. So this moment for us who are not incarnating at this time, it's a fleeting moment. But for a soul who's being transiting to this world this time, this is a lifetime commitment to a path. And that path is one where we are birthing out of the subconscious mind a new reality. And it's a tough one. It's a tough one. Um, our focus here is on the microbiome, literally and metaphorically, because the microbiome is the realm of the lower portion of the stomach and the intestines. And understanding that the intestines, Virgo, this is all Virgo. Virgo goes through and discriminates because it needs to separate. It's sifting through. It goes through, and in discriminating, it identifies, and then it assimilates. And so it's going to send the solid waste to the large intestine, and it's going to send what it has found to be usable nutrients to the small intestine, so they can be absorbed through the walls of the intestine back into the bloodstream, and then the other work is done. So Virgo, ruled by Mercury, is the go between. You see, you got Saturn, Mars, malefics, they're breaking down things which we need. You got Venus and Jupiter, benefics, they're building up, but you got to have Mercury as the go-between. It's regulating, and Mercury rules the nervous system and the hormones. So bam, so having to talk to ourselves through subconscious processes, even, and it's touching us physiologically and spiritually, because it's chemical messages going back and forth. It is the firing of the nervous system, which affects our psyche, and it ties back to the microbiome. So we're having to go down and sit with ourselves, work with ourselves. We're having to be aware of outer, strange, loud, disruptive frequencies. Outer, strange, loud, disruptive frequencies, all being expressed through the field of Virgo. and having to keep the resolve that, that uh harvest season is I'm realizing the promise of the harvest. We're realizing the promise of the harvest. We're realizing that the cornucopia is full of sustenance. Now, I know I'm speaking in a lot of metaphor, um, Pete, smarter than you. Um, so I want to focus on I wrote up here about the I said I wanted to come back and remember to talk about fire and womb. So, like I said, my moon's in Cancer, so I start getting these messages early, and I don't always know what they are until I get into the energy, and I don't know why I got the message. So, before earlier this week, I've been getting this number I saw in different instances, 306. And I was like, I know that. I know I've worked with that, the gematria, and and I was like, I can't place it right now. So I got back home and looked it back up, and what's funny, it's Esha. And I remember telling somebody how I was telling a client that Ish is the Arabic word for what? So, for what Ish, and that Issa is the name for Jesus in Arabic. And Ish is the word for fire in Hebrew. Well, here we have what I have just spelled as Esha. And Esha is um, an extension of fire where it becomes feminine. How do we know? Because it's the hey on the end. So Esha, which has a value of 306. And remember, I talked about uh, Virgo coinciding with Mary. Well, there's a particular variance of the name Mary that becomes Marissa, Mar, and Issa. Remember, I said what's the Arabic for Jesus? Issa. And Mar is the sea, and Issa is the star. So this name means the star of the sea because the feminine carries the fire in what? In water, in a womb. So I feel like this was a message of a remembrance that the Christ energy is being born and carried, and to a remembrance of the significance of this whole period we're in, and of this what would be this upcoming new moon is not to abort the fetus. And I know I've been overdoing this theme of the baby and the birth for probably a year now, but we're seeing more and more of its significance. And the fact that Virgo again deals with the digestive system at a great deal. Well, if we take 306 and reverse those numbers and get 360, it's the letter Sheen in Hebrew by itself. And this letter Sheen, when we spell it out, is a Sheen, a Yud, and a Nun, which has a value of 360. Same, it's just 306, just flipped around. What's significant about this is that the Sheen symbolically coincides with the tooth. What we got to understand about the tooth is it is the beginning of the digestive processing because it initiates digestion by starting the tearing and the breakdown. And guess what? The tearing denotes a knife, and knives are ruled by what? Mars. And what did we say earlier? Mars rules over catabolic processes. Saturn would be the end result of the breakdown of things. So your teeth start the breakdown process of what? Digestion. And so what we're having to see, it gives us a clue then back here about Neptune, which would rule over saliva. Huh. Saturn, which is a catabolic agent, even Pluto, even Neptune, Mars down here, which has been opposing Saturn. And so we're understanding, in other words, it's giving us the ability to reflect back on even this past retrograde cycle with Mercury and the difficult aspect that Mercury is still in relative to Saturn and Neptune, the difficult aspect of the moon and the sun. And we're seeing that the severity of things have been necessary, just as the teeth tearing up the food, which seems so brutal, is what necessary so that the proper nutrients can be extracted to promote the growth. We're having to remember with this new moon that, I mean, if we're going to keep it, this 2025 been a doozy, ain't it? You know, peace, poetic heart. It's been a doozy. And we're even having to still trust that also the promise of Jupiter in Cancer is still realized, which we're having to recognize mercy where it's been. And we're having to overcome the expectations of how we thought things would be to not run the risk of overlooking where we've actually had grace, where we've had positive expansion, where we've had growth. So all this comes back to the realization of the necessity of severity, of the teeth, the breaking down of things. Then we have Neptune and they're going back into Pisces, which is the sign of breaking down things. And we're understanding the necessity of things being dissolved and broken down so that what we can digest them. And in the digestion, we'll be able to separate the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. What needs to be reabsorbed or absorbed into the internal matrix and what needs to be evacuated. And as we continue leaning into that, everything works itself out the way it's supposed to work out. So I know I speak in a lot of metaphor and stuff, but hopefully this is making sense or has made sense. You know, just on another personal level, I'm here. There's one thing about knowing things, there's another thing about understanding. I got a quote up here by Idris Shah. Wisdom is when you understand what previously you only knew. And for one thing, you can only speculate about Chiron to a degree until you've actually had your Chiron or you're experiencing the Chiron return. Starts to give you a whole and so my Chiron in my charts at 27 degrees. So I'm moving into the Chiron return and I'm feeling my understanding the Chiron has just expanded. And I know it's a spiritual thing where just things fell into my lap as far as scholastically and then from experiential perspective to where I'm having a broader understanding of just Chiron, right? So all of that is at play too with me. That is, which I will come back and talk about, hopefully, about initial reflections on the Chiron return. Chiron is bigger than just the wound. Chiron is a hunt. It is a hunt for truth. And so we also have that at play too, with Venus in a square to it. And what do squares do? It's like getting to the bottom of a squat. It's where you feel the most, where gravity is at its strongest, but your muscles are engaged at their extremity. They are the most engaged that they'll be. And that's where you got the most ability to resist gravity. So gravity is its strongest, but your ability to resist it is at its greatest. And squares give us a choice. How you gonna act? Because some type of action got to be taken. But it's your choice of how are you gonna act. So we got all this in play, and but at the end of the day, the absolute value is don't abort the seed, and don't feel like your work is in vain. Sometimes you think about my uncle used to say, our job is to plant the seed. We ain't necessarily gonna see the tree grow. Talk about a hit to the ego. And there's a quantum aspect with every new seed. Every new moon, there's a quantum component we got to keep in mind. That when Bohm and those other quantum physicists were running those experiments, when they paid attention to the photon, it behaved as a particle. It went straight line through the slit. When they stopped observing it, it moved in a wave. That's a faith statement right there. Virgo can be an energy where we're so fixated on the practicality of things that we over observe the seed. Did I do this right? And did it grow? It grew 2 millimeters today, and we're observing it so much that we don't allow the magic of the wave. This Jamal talking about Jamal right now, right? As magical as I can be, I may fall prey sometimes to watching the seed grow. I got so mad about the people not following through, and it's like, uh, and in my mind, I'm saying, you must use your mind and say, I have decided that the outcome works out in my favor. Here I am, I know that. But the human side of me, you know, of I need to have this, I need to have the answer today. And, da, 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 da. And then what it does is all those chemical messengers, those hormones, the nervous system. Then when you got Uranus at play, squaring the moon and the sun, it's like now you are attacking you, right? So I fell prey to not allowing the wave to move as a wave. And I limited the photon to functioning as a particle. And now humans have more control. So the dance continues with understanding the power of your own mind and continuing to do the work to master the subconscious. The cupboards are not bare, they're actually full. But we have to accept that they're full. And a lot of this world is set up to promote self-doubt, self-doubt, self-doubt. So for those who don't know, I'm Jamal Robinson, 720astrology.com. I help people know the stars to know themselves. And that's all I got for today. So peace to everybody out there. Stay down till you get up. When you get up, stay down. And I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.